Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Cabinet meeting of Wednesday, the 19th of April. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and to assist people watching or listening online, can I remind members to identify your name and role before speaking. As I shall be declaring an interest in items 7 and 9, I'm going to ask that we take these two items first, immediately after the scrutiny item, and Councillor Nellens will take the chair at that point. I will then return and take item 8 and the rest of the agenda, if that's okay with you all. Thank you very much indeed. So, item number 1, apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Gwilym Butler, Councillor Rob Gittins, Andy Begley, James Walton, and also Mark Farrow. Item number 2, disposable interests. As I've already stated, I will be declaring an interest in items number 7 and 9, as I have an interest in property in the town centre. Councillor Nellens will chair these items. Councillor Evans, did you want to declare an interest in item number 8?
Yes, please, Chairman. Longdon Parish is in the area that I represent. I do not live in that parish, but I am Vice Chairman of that parish council. I will make a statement when we get to that item, and then I will join the audience. I know I don't vote, but just to show that I am totally separate and allow the Cabinet to do and discuss whatever they wish.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Turn that back on again. It's gone off again. Absolutely fine. Thank you, Councillor Evans. That's what I was expecting. So moving on to item number 3, which is the minutes of the last meeting, which are held on the 22nd of March. I'm happy to propose those.
Councillor Nellens, second.
Okay. Excellent. All those in favour of the minutes? Thank you very much indeed. Item number 4, public question time. We don't have any public questions today, but item number 5, members' questions. We do have 2 members' questions. The first question is from Councillor Alex Wagner and will be read by Tim Collard. Thank you, Tim.
Yes, thank you. The question is this. Do the Cabinet feel bus operators in Shropshire have been consulted adequately on changes being proposed to Shrewsbury bus station and the Riverside? And can they outline the steps taken to consult those running the service?
Thank you, Tim, and the answer will be provided by Councillor Ian Nellens.
Yeah, thanks for the question, and the simple answer is yes. Bus operators are one of the key stakeholders that have been consulted as part of the ongoing process, and they will continue to be an important stakeholder as we transition through the various phases of the strategy for the town. As part of the Council's bus service improvement plan submission, a requirement to form an enhanced bus partnership with all bus operators serving the county was adopted as part of any future consultation. That group will continue to be one of the key conduits through which we consult with bus operators to ensure all operators' views continue to be considered. The emerging movement and public realm strategy for Shrewsbury explicitly acknowledges the need to provide effective, efficient and well-located bus facilities as part of the integrated public transport travel solution in the town centre. Its immediate environs and its role across the wider country. The strategy has been formed by an advisory group of key stakeholders, including bus user groups. The strategy is due to be published in the summer of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I was just going to say, Councillor Evans, does Councillor Wagner have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chairman. I do have a supplementary that Councillor Wagner has sent me, and I'll read out what it says is, have operators given any specific feedback on the impact of moving the bus station, please?
Councillor Nellens?
I'll have to get back to you on that from the public transport group, but I would be interested to find out if Councillor Wagner believes that some of the bus operators don't feel that they've been involved in this, and if there is, if you could let us know. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Nellens. Second question comes from Councillor Andy Boddington, who's joining us online. Good morning, Andy. Over to you.
Morning. Thank you. The state of our major roads and country lanes has become an embarrassment for our beautiful county. Verges, lay-bys and hedges are badly littered. Informal volunteer teams have been litter picking across the county, from Ludlow to Market Drayton. They're often on main roads with traffic passing at high speed. Around 140 bags of litter were collected this spring from the A49 Ludlow bypass alone. Observation shows that littering has increased everywhere, especially on roads since the pandemic. There is clearly a public mood that this has become intolerable in a county that prides itself on its beauty and promotes itself for tourism. So my questions are: one, what efforts does Shropshire Council make to clear litter across our county, especially on significant roads? Two, what plans does the council have for an anti-litter promotional campaign? Three, will the council consider recruiting volunteer street champions, giving them guidance on litter picking and providing them with insurance? Or will the council consider increasing the number of litter bins in residential areas to reduce litter, including dog poo bags? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boddington. The answer will be provided by Councillor Richard Marshall.
Thank you, Councillor Boddington. Richard Marshall, portfolio holder for Highways and Regulatory Services. Shropshire Council spends millions of pounds every year protecting and improving the public realm. Litter picking of high-speed roads sits under Shropshire Council control, which does include some national highways roads. Litter picking these high-speed roads demands significant planning and forms part of our annual cycle of street scene operations. Orders have been placed with our contractor to undertake this work, and a programme is in place. Permits have to be obtained in order to carry out the work safely, as well as ensuring that the relevant health and safety, traffic management and lane closures are properly organised to ensure the workforce undertaking the operation is kept as safe as possible. We are extremely grateful that our communities support the work we do with positive action. We do support this ourselves by providing equipment and materials to groups who want to litter pick, and we are currently looking at developing a formal community-centred formal recognition system for their excellent work. Question 2. Nationally, all highways authorities have seen significant increases in the amount of litter selfishly thrown from moving vehicles. As we start to roll out this year's clean-up, we will be having many communication pieces highlighting the work and encouraging people to bag it and bin it. Question 3. As the portfolio holder responsible, I am extremely keen to aid and encourage local residents to assist in looking after their own areas. And we do, as previously stated, already support many local initiatives with the supply of equipment for so-called one-ball schemes. Safety, though, has to be of paramount importance, and therefore these initiatives have to be coordinated to maintain those high levels of safety. Question 4. As part of the overall service reviews, we are constantly looking at ways to update the development of our comprehensive asset register, which provides for a clearer understanding of service need. As an example to this, accurate data collection of how full a bin is when emptying it will enable us to hit hotspots before they actually become hotspots.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Councillor Boddington, have you got a supplementary?
Fairly simply, I mean, that was comprehensive. Thank you. Could you keep us up to date on this throughout the year? Because it's one of the issues I get most complaints about. And as I say, we have very active volunteer groups all the way from Ludlow up to Market Drayton. And I mean, people are keen to get involved. I do agree about safety, absolutely agree. But that's why we need perhaps some sort of community scheme, some street champions, that we can advise them and guide them properly.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. I don't think there's anybody around this table that wouldn't agree with you about how it has become a real issue. Councillor Marshall, I know you wanted to come back on that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Councillor Boddington. And you know, I drive around the county. I also drive around the country quite often, and I do see an extreme amount of litter thrown. And believe me, when we look at the comms pieces, I would have quite a severe campaign, which Keep Britain Tidy I started to pick up on. I won't bring that to Cabinet at the moment because they're probably not ready for the wording on it, but it is something that I believe in and really pushing forward on. And I am keen, as I said, to look at enabling communities to work in their own areas and to start taking care of those areas as well. Unfortunately, it's not often the locals themselves that are throwing the rubbish from the cars, it is the people passing through. And we will work, and I'm very keen, and I do this within my own parish councils. I work with them to facilitate the Womble schemes. So I will look at pushing that forward county-wide.
Thank you. I've not heard it called one more schemes for a long time. Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Thank you, Councillor Boddington. Okay, moving on to item number 6, scrutiny items. And I know that Councillor Peggy Mullock is going to join us as the chair of the People's Scrutiny Committee. Nice to see you, Peggy. Over to you.
Thank you. Peggy Mullock, chair of the.
Your microphone on.
Right hand up.
Thank you.
Peggy Mullock, chair of the People's Scrutiny Committee. At the People's Scrutiny meeting held on the 29th of March, the following recommendation was agreed: that the committee would want to voice their concerns regarding the health sector's ability to commission and deliver the Accelerated Progress Plan to Cabinet, and the Cabinet may wish to write to the Department of Health and the Department of Education to express these concerns. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Mullock, and thank you for the work that Scrutiny did that day. I know this is a particularly difficult situation that we find ourselves in. I am quite happy to speak to both the DFE and also the Department of Health and to raise those concerns.
Okay.
It's not, I don't think there's one cabinet member around this table who's not nodding at the moment. I do have serious concerns as to whether they can actually fulfil the action plan as they have put forward. And I will be talking to the chairman of the ICS when I meet with him in next week, isn't it? Yeah, I'll be talking to him next week. So yes, we will absolutely take that on board, and I will make sure we show you a copy of the draft letter before it's sent. Okay, thank you. Okay, so no further ado, we will now move on to the main items of the agenda. So we're going to take item number 7 and then item number 9. I'm now going to leave the room and leave you in the capable hands of the Deputy Leader, Councillor Ian Lowndes.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, the Shrewsbury Business Improvement District bid renewal. And I invite Councillor Dean Carroll, the portfolio holder for Growth, Regeneration and Housing, to introduce.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader. It's a pleasure to be able to bring the renewal back for hopefully a third term for Shrewsbury bid. The paper lays out the value of investment that's been leveraged into Shrewsbury Town Centre through the bid, which I think has been one of the more successful ones, not just regionally, but nationwide, and full plaudits should go to the management and the board of the bid for that. Before we get on to proposing the recommendations, can I just draw members' attention to ensuring that they are on the amended, updated report and not the original report. There was a small typo with significant implications in the original report, which suggested that the levy level was set at 1.75%, which was incorrect. It's now been corrected in the amended report, and that is at 1.58%. That is the only change between the two reports, but it is an important one and one that I felt should be highlighted before we progress. The recommendations under item 3 are to note the bid's request to go ahead to a vote for renewal for a third term, to endorse the business plan that the bidder submitted should they be successful in securing a third term, and to secure the support of Shropshire Council as a landlord in Shrewsbury Town Centre for the corporate votes in support of renewal of the Shrewsbury bid. As I say, I think it's been an extremely successful bid. The value leveraged into the town is laid out within the report. I propose recommendations 3.1, 3.2 and 3.3 and invite any questions.
Thank you very much. Have we got a set? First of all, got a seconder for that? Councillor.
Yes, Chair, Councillor Cecilia Motley, Adult Social Care, Public Health and Communities. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And just looking, we've got a few hands up for Councillor Julian Dean.
Thank you very much. Just two comments really with regard to the business plan. The first is I welcome the theme work in Shrewsbury, but I also note that the board doesn't actually contain any workers. It represents the businesses. So I wonder if the Shropshire Council representation can try and make sure that we get some worker voices involved in the development of that theme, even if not on the board. And the reason I bring this to your attention, some years ago I was involved in developing a scheme around workers' rights for young workers in the hospitality sector. And whilst in most places things are great, there definitely was some experience of people having, unpaid trial shifts and things like that. But we also know that young workers are struggling with public transport and the cost of living stuff as well. So I think that there's a role for making sure that we hear from people who are actually working in those businesses in the centre of town. So I ask that the council representatives on the board look at ensuring that. The second point is with regard to cargo bikes. You may know that on Monday the Finance and General Purchase Committee of the Town Council agreed to purchase of 2 cargo bikes to be managed by the Cycle Hub. But also on Monday, the Mayor of London published a report that said that cargo bikes are, obviously this is in London, but I imagine the figures won't be that different, 1.6 times faster, 7 times cheaper to run, and 67 times less damaging to the environment than vans. So I hope that as part of the work with the bid, we can look at supporting the Cycle Hub in developing the use of cargo bikes within the business district and perhaps even expand that scheme. Thanks.
Thanks. And on that, obviously, we can have a look at that part where we're talking about using getting the council involved with the younger members, because that is an important part, particularly as I said, getting people to and from work. And I've had the pleasure of being on the cargo bike to see what it's like. It is a good use, but it's one of the things we have to look at a later stage, finance being the main issue. Thank you, Councillor Julia Buckley.
Thank you, Julia Buckley, leader of the Labour Group. Just to really welcome the report on how positive the situation is with the bid in Shrewsbury. In Bridgnorth, we looked to Shrewsbury and it's seen as a beacon of hope. And you may be aware that Bridgnorth recently put in a bid for some levelling up funding to do a feasibility study to see whether there might be potential interest in having a similar business improvement district in Bridgnorth. So it'll start with a business study to find out what the needs of the business are. But we already had speakers over from the Shrewsbury bid and it was really welcome. So hopefully this will start to roll out across the county. It's really welcome.
Thanks, Julia. There's no other. Oh, sorry, Roger.
Well, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, congratulate the bid. I also note that Shropshire Council could be liable to pay for 24 properties. Are these in the Pride Hill Centre, or is that separately done? Because as it's empty, of course, is that applicable to this? It is a black building at present, but I'm interested to know what contribution the owners of the Pride Hill Centre will make towards the what the bid actually does for Shrewsbury.
I'll ask Councillor Dean Carroll if he's got an answer for that.
Thank you. If I come back to each of the points in order, yes, Julian, I'm more than happy to ask our representatives on the bid, and I can see Seb is nodding enthusiastically that we take on board the voices of the workforce of Shrewsbury Town Centre, without whom Shrewsbury Town Centre wouldn't thrive and prosper. So absolutely, that's a no-brainer. In terms of cargo bikes, I think Councillor Nellens has responded to that point. I don't tend to pay attention to what the Mayor of London says, but in this case, maybe there's something in there that we can learn from. Councillor Buckley, thank you for your support for the bid. I know that one of your members is a very active and supportive part of the wider Team Shrewsbury collective, and is a great supporter of the bid. So thank him for that as well. And yes, I am very well aware of Bridgnorth's interest, and Shropshire Council most definitely support Bridgnorth and any other of our market towns who wish to explore the opportunities that a bid presents to them. Councillor Evans, the 24 properties, I will have to get you a breakdown on them. However, Shropshire Council, as I'm sure you're aware, does own a number of properties throughout Shrewsbury Town Centre, not just the shopping centres. Some of them are operated by Shropshire Council as corporate buildings. Some of them are leased out either to charitable and community sector or on commercial rents. And some of them at any one time, like with any portfolio of properties, will be vacant. So some of that will be accommodated through those needs. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I will get you a full breakdown of what the properties, what is made up of those 24 properties.
If I can, Chairman, can that include the Pride Hill Centre as well? I would want that included to see if that contributes or in any way as well, please. And thank you for the answer.
Like I said, it will include all of the council's property holdings within Shrewsbury Town Centre. I don't think I can be much clearer than that. I believe, I'm looking, unfortunately, Mark and James aren't here, who are the ones who would be able to confirm. So I'll wait till we can provide an answer in writing. But as I said, that will include all of the council's holdings.
Thanks very much. We've had a proposer and a seconder. Can we have a vote on all those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9, the Levelling Up Fund Award for Shrewsbury. Again, I call upon Councillor Dean Carroll, Public Portfolio Holder for Growth Regeneration Housing, to introduce.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader. This paper is seeking to tie off all of the administrative and obligatory functions that we need to approve in order to draw down and access the Levelling Up Fund bid that we've received for the Shrewsbury Town Centre works. We need to, as the recommendations 3.1 to 3.4 lay out, we need to instruct officers to proceed with the projects. We need to approve the match funding with the annual associated financial contribution to service that match funding. We need to include the enabling and infrastructure works associated with the Levelling Up Fund award within the planning application for the demolition of the Riverside Shopping Centre and medical practice. And we need to give delegation to the Executive Director of Place, in consultation with the 151 officer and myself, to proceed with compiling the full financial details and business case for further consideration by Council, and to progress a procurement and delivery strategy for the projects. Those are all requirements of the Levelling Up Fund award. They're also good practice that we should be following anyway. As I've said, the Levelling Up Fund award for Shrewsbury was good news and positive for the town, and turbocharges our redevelopment in the framework area. So I will propose recommendations 3.1 to 3.4 and invite questions.
Thanks very much. Can we have a second, please? Well, I'll second that, actually. I didn't read that earlier, sorry. So I'll second that, and I'll invite any questions from Councillor Roger Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. I note this. Congratulate the officers for getting this money to regenerate Shrewsbury, because, as I referred to earlier on, there was a big building in the centre of Shrewsbury which Shropshire Council paid some of the £53 million for, which is not generating any footfall and not helping the economy. So I am good that that is doing it. I am concerned that what is being proposed in the paper is a public loans board and will cost the revenue budget nearly £270,000 a year. £275 when Shropshire Council paid the capital to buy that building. I just cannot understand why we are not searching for partners who will match what we have as the landowner in capital and not actually need to spend any of Shropshire Council's taxpayers' money. We've already spent enough on that purchase, which many councillors did not agree with. But however, we do own it. But now to actually do something for the town centre, I would hope that we can look at developers and partners who could help to actually do that and provide the necessary capital without us burdening our revenue, which has great problems. We're saving needing to save £1 million a week at present in revenue, and 24-25 doesn't look much better, and we're going to spend £270,000 in interest payments on something that I do not think is actually needed. And I know that in 7.2 it says visible impact on people and their communities. Yes, it will support this, but I cannot find any reference about the bus station and later on. And can I say that bus station is needed? And it was demonstrated at the council meeting what the non-administration members feel about this phase 3, if that ever develops. And I would give notice now to officers that in May 25 there is an election for this council, and if the political climate is as it is now, there could well be a change in administration. And as was indicated by the present non-administration members, they are totally against what's being proposed for the bus station in Shrewsbury. So please take note of that. So any future spending on that bus station, we want it there. We want it kept. Shrewsbury people want it kept. Shropshire people want it kept, and not a bus interchange. It was voted down, and this is to do with the phase 1 and 2. So again, I congratulate the officers on getting the funding for this, and it does need to do something, and I would hope it can proceed, but with partners. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julia Buckley.
Thank you, Julia Buckley, leader of Shropshire Labour Group. We also welcome, of course, the excellent investment that was secured through the levelling up funding grant. It was a shame this was the only successful one out of the 3 we put in for the county. Everyone was very disappointed about the bus travel, which could have helped the whole of Shropshire. But this is very welcome, and the funding is much needed to get us out of the black hole that has been created and move us forwards. I'm particularly concerned that at this very late stage, we are presented with this report, which is sort of a lastminute.com scrabbling around for the match funding. Once again, having asked multiple times how this administration plans to match fund its capital programme, I'm regularly told that I'm stupid and that I don't understand the difference between capital and revenue funding. I'm really pleased that my 23 years working in funding is finally paying off, because as I say every single time, if you haven't identified your source of capital receipts, you are obliged to borrow, which has a revenue implication. This council cannot afford any more revenue commitments. It certainly can't afford this 270 every year on top of everything else. And this has come about because of a lack of planning. To put in a bid for funding, we planned in advance. We all knew this bid was going in. We all knew how much it was for. We all knew how much the match commitment was. So why, after the event, at the last minute, are we now being told that we're going to have to borrow to fill yet another gap? Now, of course, the interest rates have spiralled because of the terrible state of the economy, thanks to this terrible government. Borrowing rates are up at 5%. The most worrying thing of all is that this gap is only 3.8 million and you're going to borrow 270 a year. But it brings us on to the same question we ask you at every cabinet. If you haven't planned for this match funding, what on earth are you going to do to match the North West Relief Road? Because the increased costs have gone up by 40%.
Relevant.
The government has told you categorically, I'll just finish my sentence if that's okay. The government
Point
has
of order, leader. Point of order, leader. This is irrelevant to the paper
relevant.
being discussed.
Okay, Julia.
If I may finish my sentence. The government have been very clear in your funding letter that we must meet every single penny that goes over the 56 million. So if we haven't got a plan in place that identifies the capital receipts, this problem we're all staring at will happen again at the last minute. So it's a plea, please, that we plan ahead and don't find ourselves facing more and more revenue costs because of a lack of planning by this administration.
Okay, Julie, thanks for that. We are getting to that point. Julian, thanks.
Thank you, Julian Dean, representing the Green Group. I echo those points. I think that absolutely we need to see more careful planning of match funding. I wanted to pick up on some specifics within the vote report. So on 6.1, it talks about, and 6.2, I welcome the fact that it talks about minimising waste to landfill and the use of materials on site for the redevelopment. But it also says in 6.1, it says, if I can pick it out, where are we? Apologies, because it was a little bit confusing. It says something about, no, I can't find it. I'll come back to that. Apologies. The next point, it's about carbon accounting, and it doesn't come across very clearly. So if there's any comments on that. The next point is about the appendix around what's planned for the station area. It's really welcome that finally we're actually seeing some investment in active travel, since the identification of some actual funds to go into active travel around that area. The appendix plan is still a little bit disappointing. It shows only one-way cycle access up Castle Street, but I realise we haven't actually seen the movement strategy yet, so we'll welcome that. The paper also makes the point that this is an opportunity for an early win. I could have given you an early win many years ago. We've been making a fuss about the very poor pedestrian access across those crossings, just simply by doing something around the phasing of the lights, both around the station but also around the Welsh Bridge, which continue to be really appalling from a pedestrian point of view. Then in terms of the actual recommendations, I just wanted to make the point that we're basically handing power back over to the portfolio holder and the Director of Place. I think that before the next set of proposals come to full council, I would really welcome this going to scrutiny to look at the detail. That stage, I think, is essential. And the final point is really going all the way back to the document that was published last year on the whole redevelopment and going to the phasing of this. In that document, it says the demolition of Riverside Shopping Centre also allows the creation of temporary public space and meanwhile uses on the riverfront. This should be considered in order to generate public interest, engaging with the community and visitors of Shrewsbury. In reality, we're going to be in meanwhile use for at least the next couple of years if we demolish this shopping centre. So I really think that at this stage we ought to be beginning to consider some of that in an interesting way to make sure that the meanwhile use really does benefit the people of Shrewsbury, and that we don't, to go back to the very first point where we're talking about the demolition materials staying on site, that we don't just have a pile of bricks for people to admire. So I would really welcome some thoughts about what's going to happen to the meanwhile use. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Go back to Councillor Carroll.
Thank you very much. Firstly, Councillor Evans, your comments. Can I please signpost you to the bottom of page 3, the table below paragraph 5.3. Now, you said that we should make our contribution, our match funded contribution, through our land holdings. That's absolutely fine. But I'm sure you can see in the table there that the total match funding contribution is just over £5 million, and 1.25 million of that is already allocated from our land holdings as a contribution, which means that the remainder that we are proposing to borrow is a top up to that, not instead of that figure. Now, the funding to acquire the 3 shopping centres was both a place shaping and a commercial investment, primarily a place shaping investment, but it also returned an income. This is match funding for a capital project which is slightly different to the acquisition of the 3 shopping centres. So we're funding it slightly differently. The annual revenue impact, of course, we don't want to add any more pressure onto our revenue budget than we absolutely have to. However, this is leveraging in between our match funding and the government LUF award in the region of £20 million into Shrewsbury Town Centre. Now, if we assume that, as is often quoted, resources follow priorities, and one of the priorities of the Shropshire Plan is a healthy economy, this annual investment into leveraging in this larger investment into Shrewsbury Town Centre and the overall regeneration plans for Shrewsbury Town Centre is, in my view, a justified and worthwhile investment. Now, I appreciate that you may not agree with that, and we may never agree on that, and that's absolutely fine. But in my view, that's why we're bringing a paper for Cabinet for consideration. In my view, that is a justifiable investment. In terms of, you did also say that we didn't own the Riverside Shopping Centre. Well, we always owned the freehold of the Riverside Shopping Centre. We bought out the leasehold. We always did own the freehold of the Riverside Shopping Centre. I was disappointed about your comments regarding the bus station. We've been crystal clear that retaining a facility within this part of Shrewsbury Town Centre was always our plan. The previous leader said it, the current leader has said it, the deputy leader said it, I've said it, my predecessor as portfolio holder for economic development has said it. Your intransigence in insisting on bus station facilities akin to what's there at the moment is bordering on the farcical, when the majority of residents I speak to want functioning bus interchange facilities, but not like are there at the moment, the cold, the dark, the damp, the unwelcoming. And some of the locations that were held up by opposition members in that debate in full council as examples of best practice, I did research them, I did look them up, were listed as bus interchanges. The very wording that you despise to such an extent. So I can only assume that the semantics around this are to do with something other than the facility suggested. I'll move on to Councillor Buckley's comment. I completely disregard the final part of the intervention as it's wholly irrelevant to a paper talking about match funding investment in Shrewsbury Town Centre for the LUF funding. The reason that this paper's been brought now is because we can't bring a paper asking to secure match funding and meet the obligations of a Levelling Up Fund award until we knew that we had the Levelling Up Fund award. Julian, thank you. Your comments are, as usual, constructive and helpful. As you say, the movement strategy is not yet finished. The movement work is still going on. I don't know if either of my colleagues who are more involved in the movement part of it have any more to add, but I recognise the comments you've made about certainly Castle Street and pedestrian and cycle access between the station, the Riverside development site and future bus interchange, and the northern corridor leading into the north of the town. I think that it's fair to say that the indicative layout within the location maps shows an aspiration to achieving that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. I'd just like to, before we go, just remind people that the recommendation is the Cabinet agrees to recommend to Council, so this will still go to full Council. Sorry, Julian.
Sorry, Chair. I found a bit that I mumbled my way through earlier. So if you don't mind, can I just go? So yeah, the 6.1 it says capturing and quantifying the impact of carbon activity of the bids if successful will be explored and undertaken through future monitoring. So I'm not quite sure what that means because the bid has been successful, I assume. But also, surely we should be at a stage by now where this is a fairly straightforward thing to do to begin to do carbon accounting for the work that we're doing. So I just wanted to pursue that one. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. And of course, the climate team do go into all of that throughout. Well, quick comebacks, please. Roger, please.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I will remind Councillor Carroll that when we bought the bus, when we bought the shopping centres, the valuation on the Riverside placed on that by Shropshire Council was £3 million. What is now being said is that the land and asset contribution from Pride Hill and the Riverside is £1.2 million, according to this, as I see it. Wait to see it. But I also note in 5.6 that the full financial details and business cases are still being prepared. Still being prepared. I hope it isn't too long, because it is and wanted to improve the economic viability of Shrewsbury Town Centre. That's why I'm supporting projects 1 and 2. I know there's no LTP for the LC WIP. Where is that? I don't know. Anything on this about cycling? There's a lot of things which are still outstanding. But I look forward to debating this in council, and I'll be interested to see where the voting goes about the economy of the town centre and who wants to improve it and who doesn't. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And I think recently it's been publicised that the footfall in the town centre has been improved since 2019. So it actually is going in the right direction. Thank you, Julia.
Yeah, just on that point about the delayed business plan, in bid writing, you always have to submit this at the point of application. In 23 years, we would always get council approval at the point of application. We wouldn't wait until we heard whether or not we got the funding, which is why I'm finding this very last minute compared to benchmark with other councils. So what I really wanted to say was to thank Dean Carroll, because you've been very honest and you understood my comment and you've been honest in your reply. My comment is that you're making a choice to use revenue money to pay off a loan to match fund this capital project, and that choice will mean 270,000 taken away from some other revenue service. So you understood my question and you were honest that is a choice that you think is good value. It might return an investment in the town centre, but I worry very much which service you're going to take the money away from every year for 25 years.
Okay, thanks very much. Patrick, Carroll, you want to reply?
Yes, so there we go. Yes, firstly, coming back to Roger, I believe, unless I've completely misunderstood the area of the Lough Fund bid, which I don't believe I have, I believe this refers to the Riverside, not to Riverside and Pride Hill.
Does it say?
Well, this is the Smithfield Riverside redevelopment programme, and it's talking about the demolition of Riverside Shopping Centre. In terms of the business case, there was an outline business case submitted with the Lough Fund bid, but you can't do market testing until you know the timeline. You can't do full market testing until you know the timeline of the project, because you don't know what construction inflation is going to be. That's why you cannot populate the figures of the full business case until you can do that.
Well, you'll struggle to do it all within the time frame, right? Having left until this last minute.
The work is already underway, and yes, we do support the economic growth and vitality of Shrewsbury Town Centre, and I welcome the debate and vote at full council, because that will then demonstrate to the public once and for all which parties on this council support and are prepared to invest in the economic vitality of Shrewsbury Town Centre and henceforth all of our other market towns, and which councils aren't prepared to.
Can you tell us when it will?
Thank you, Leader.
Okay, well, leave it at that. Councillor Carroll's proposed, I've seconded. Can we have a vote, please? All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll just go and get the leader back in.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. So, going backwards in the agenda, item number 8, application by Longdon Parish Council for Longdon Parish to be considered as a neighbourhood area. I'll start that again. As a neighbourhood area. Councillor Richard Marshall.
Can I make a statement? Can I make a statement and then I'll leave it?
Yes, Councillor Evans, of course you can.
It's just to say, as a Shropshire Council for the area and on Parish Council, totally support this. Finish of statement.
Oh, if only they were always that quick. Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Richard Marshall.
Thank you, Leader. Richard Marshall, portfolio holder for Highways and Regulatory Services. Following a recent request made to Shropshire Council by Longdon Parish Council, Shropshire Council have been asked to consider and agree that the parish of Longdon be designated as a neighbourhood area for the purposes of preparing a neighbourhood plan. Having considered the matter, including the justification provided by the Parish Council contained in Appendix 1 to this report is now asking Cabinet to agree that Longdon Parish area, as identified in Appendix 2 of the report, be designated a neighbourhood area for the purposes of the preparation of the neighbourhood development plan for that area. The report does not seek any agreement on the content of any future neighbourhood development plan, as this will now be a matter for Longdon Parish Council to advance in consultation with Shropshire Council, the local community and wider stakeholders. As a council, we fully support the principle of areas seeking to develop their own neighbourhood plans to supplement and complement the wider policies of our own development plan. So therefore, I propose to recommend 3.1 of the report that Cabinet agree the designation of the proposed neighbourhood area identified on the map in Appendix 2, covering the parish of Longdon, as an appropriate basis for the development of a neighbourhood development plan and notifies Longdon Parish Council accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall, and I'm very happy to second that. I see no hands. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Evans. You may come back to the table. Okay, so moving on now to item number 10, which is the exclusion of press and public. I'm happy to propose that we exclude the press and public.
Councillor Ian Evans, I second.
All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. We will now wait until we get notification that we're no longer live.